Hi guys, welcome back. In this lecture, we'll implement the Google Login feature. We first let users sign in their Google accounts using the Google Sign-In library from Google. Okay, now go to Terminal to install these packages. Type pod install. After users logged in their Google accounts, we'll then use the returned Google authorization information to authenticate them using our Firebase server. Alright. The Google Sign-In package from Google is now ready for us to use. First, we'll need to import this library to our project. So in the Login View controller file, import Google Sign-In. This library offers methods for signing users in their Google accounts. Command, click this package. We can see all classes and stuff it possesses. Among them, the only class we need for now is the GID Sign-In class. It has properties and methods we need for Google authentication. Alright, to begin, we'll call function sign-in to start the Google authentication process. We want to start this process when users tap the Google Login button. So in the Google Login did tap function, ask the Google Sign-In class for its shared instance, and call function sign-in of this instance. Alright, actually let's delete the view switching code for now. If users are successfully authenticated by Google, our app will back sort of their Google account information. We could then use this information to log them in our app. Similar to the anonymous login, we'll implement a helper method for this. So, func login with Google. All right, we'll fill it up later. Now, in the login view controller, call this function after users are authenticated by Google, login with Google. All right, good. That's our plan. Ask Google for user Google account information, then use our app server to authenticate users. All right, let's build the app and see. Next, we'll take care of Google Sign-In, then implement Firebase authentication later. Google Sign-In is not going to work now, but let's see what we need to do next. All right, hit the Google button. Yep, it's not working, but let's see what the problem is. All right, let's take a look at the console. It says, okay, here. It says we need to set client ID. It's like Google says to our app, like, I understand you want to sign this user in their Google account, but I don't know who you are. I need to know your Google client ID. Okay, cool. To set this ID, command-click the Google Sign-In package in the GID Sign-In class. There's a public property we can use to do that. Let's see, here it is. Property client ID of type optional string. So in the login view controller file in the view did load method, get the shared instance of the GID sign-in class. Shared instance. Set client ID to, you probably didn't notice, but we have it already. It's in the Google configuration file we downloaded when we registered our app on the Firebase website. So copy it over, and great, that should do it. Google can now recognize our app. Actually, we need to register our app on the Google website to get this Google configuration file and client ID. But I guess because Firebase belongs to Google, so we got the file when we created our Firebase app. All right, here's our app. Google login, there's an error. Kind of says GID sign-in needs something to display the UI for users to input their Google accounts. So we'll let the login view controller declare it'll take care of that by letting it adopt GID sign-in UI delegate. Then in view did load, we let GID sign-in know that login view controller is going to display the Google login UI. Self is simply our login view controller. You can also present a new view controller instead of using login view controller. Actually, let's run the app. In that case, it needs to implement some optional methods in GID sign-in UI delegate. All right, Google login. Okay, still not working. Let's see the error in the console again. So Google says like, okay, we can let your users sign in, but the URLs you return, which contain their Google account information, obey a certain scheme, and you must know what it is in order to handle these URLs. All right, we can add this scheme in the project setting. The scheme is actually the reverse client ID Google gave us when we registered our app on Google website. So in the project setting, set this reverse client ID as a URL scheme. We also need to add another URL scheme. In the General tab in the project setting, find the bundle identifier. Okay, here it is. All right, let's copy it and then go to the Info tab under URL types. Make it another URL scheme. Okay, I think we're good. All right, Google knows who we are. We can display the Google login page, and we know how the URLs Google returns to us are going to look like. All right, here's the app. Let's log in with Google. Great. This is the UI GID sign-in wants to display. We previously logged in our Google account on the simulator, so our account is displaying here. All right, let's go ahead and sign in. Hit sign in and cool. Then allow. All right, nothing happened. All right, we logged in the 0 to launch IO Google account, but so far the app doesn't know what to do with the URL returned from Google. The message in the console suggests we need to open then handle this URL in our app delegate. So in the app delegate, first import Google sign-in, because later we'll use a URL handling method from it. Now, when a URL is sent to our app, method application open URL will be called. Let's first print the URL that Google sent to our app, and return false for now, because the return type of this function is bool. We'll use a Google sign-in method to handle this URL sent from Google later. Now the app can open this URL, so let's see how it looks. All right. The app is working. All right, let's sign in with Google. Cool. Now click allow. Great. In the console, you can see the app did receive the URL from Google. But the method for opening this URL currently returns false, meaning, for now, the app doesn't do anything to handle the URL it received. To do that, we'll call method handle URL from class GID sign-in with a recent URL as a parameter. You don't need to worry about the other parameters for now. We'll print them to the console to see later. For now, let's just follow us filling them out. All right, cast this as string. All right, command click this handle URL function. We'll see its declaration, the GID sign-in class. It returns true if the input URL is successfully handled. All right, before building the app, let's print the source application parameter of this method to see. All right, cast it as string. Cool. Now build the app. Okay, no bugs so far. It's running and cool. Now sign in. We've directed to the Google login page. Let's allow to log in. Great. By the way, the source application we printed is just the Safari view service. All right, cool. Our app can now open and handle the URL sent from Google. To access the Google authentication information, we must implement protocol methods. We'll let login view controller take care of that by letting it adopt GID sign-in delegate. Then, let GID sign-in know that login view controller is the one being implemented methods of protocol GID sign-in delegate. This is the method of GID sign-in delegate we need to implement to access Google authentication information. All right, login view controller is now a GID sign-in delegate. So let it implement method sign-in did sign-in for user to access Google authentication information. This information is a property of parameter user. It contains Google sign-in tokens and stuffs if the sign-in process succeeds. Usually we'll need to check if there's an error or not. All right, let's sign in. All right, great, it works. We can see the user authentication returned from Google. All right, usually before extracting the Google authentication information, we need to check if there's an error or not. But we'll do that later. All right. Now, let's call function login with Google after we get the Google authentication information. When we created it, we didn't define its inputs, but actually, this function needs authentication information of type GID auth. Okay, we're missing something. Okay, oh yeah, we haven't imported the Google sign-in package to this file. Authentication of type GID, authentication. We need a GID authentication input because the authentication from Google is of type optional GID authentication. Now, let user authentication be the input of function login with Google. Here we'll use our Firebase server to authenticate users. So let credential be Firebase credential corresponding to Google ID and access token, Google authentication ID token, and Google authentication access token. All right, From now on, no more Google stuff. Now use Firebase authentication to authenticate users with the above. Firebase credential. Upon completion, return an optional Firebase user and an optional error. Then check if Firebase successfully authenticated this user. If not, report the error to the console with localized description. All right. Then return to do nothing. All right. If successful, we receive authenticated user information. Let's print the user email and user display name for now. We can do whatever we want with this information, but let's just see how it looks for now. All right. By the way, you can display the error to the UI. That's not difficult, so we're not going to do it here because it might be distractive. All right. Here's the app. All right, let's Google sign in. Okay, in this case, Firebase authentication failed. The error says we need Firebase's permission to use this service. All right, so in our Firebase app console, find the option for Google sign in method and enable it and save. Okay, cool. Let's run the app and check it out. When Firebase receives Google authentication tokens, it sort of matches them with corresponding Firebase user IDs, then authenticate the users. All right, let's Google sign in. Google tokens, and cool, we're authenticated. Firebase now knows our Google information and stuff, and email. We are now a stored user on the Firebase server of the app. Here we are. You can also check that it created a Firebase user ID for us. Okay, so now we're authenticated. Let's use the code from anonymous login to switch the view to the chat view after users are authenticated. All right, great. We're pretty much done, but there's a repetition in our code. We wrote the view switching snippet twice. That's not so good. So now we'll implement a function for that task, then call it if needed. Because we're just gonna use it inside class helper. We'll make it a private function named switch to navigation view controller. Cool. Now let's move the snippet we need to this function and call the function instead. Good. Oh yeah, we need the self keyword because we're using this function inside the class. All right, cool. Now call this function in the anonymous login method too. Call it. All right, let's see. We're good. All right, let's run the app to see if everything hooks up. All right, okay. Okay, all right, now let's log in with Google. It's still working nicely. Now let's check in if we're on the app Firebase database. Great. Here we are. These are our Google account and Firebase user ID. We're pretty much finished, but let's go back to the login view controller to do what we promised before. We need to check if there's a Google sign-in error, because Google authentication can fail. If that's the case, we can report the error with detailed description and then do nothing. Okay, we'll start building chat features next time. See you then.